practices with the Eagles. Oddly, Philly starters did not play because of, loudly checking notes, a week of joint practices with the Patriots. I didn't understand that. Here's Nick Sirianni.
We had 89 plays against New England. It was a long practice. It was a physical practice. We had some good one-on-one reps. I just thought it was a really physical practice because I think New England's a really physical team. That's not enough rest, in my opinion, to put those guys back out there.
Huh? Well,
what?
Still, by the way, still batting 1,000 for all of NFL history of coaches saying the team they just practiced against was physical. Well, I'm yet to see the one be like, man, that was a really finesse team we were up against this week. Basically playing patty cake out there. Here's the problem. My problem is twofold. One is, last year in week 1 of the regular season, they played the Patriots. And they won, but they seemed lethargic, out of sorts. And Nick Sirianni said after that week 1 game, maybe it was a mistake not playing my guys in the preseason. Now, they started 8-0 the year before. That last year they started 10-1. So I get that piece of it. But I really believe the Eagles need to have their starters have some success before this year starts. Because last year, we can show it to you, I think Supernatural Funk and the jokes we've made understated. For 2 months last year, they were arguably the worst team in the NFL. No one in the league has done more losing since December 1st. Only the Commanders lost more games, and the Commanders cleaned house. The Chargers cleaned house. The Jaguars, their quarterback got hurt. You can't really go against them. What are you going to do? And so of all the teams in the league, Greg, that I would think, hey, man, have your starters go out there, especially against, a Patriots team that is weak and just traded away Matthew Judon and get, 7 plays, 75 yards, touchdown, bang, feel good, new season. It's just weird that they would be okay rolling into next year with the last football those starters played together was that disaster run.
Yeah, and that was my number one takeaway. The way you ended the season with all the discord, with all the questioning of relationships, and are we on the same page, even with the head coach, even with the quarterback and receivers? Like, we bring in new guys. We've struggled the tail end of the season, and it just puts into question, like when you talk about practicing against a team, was it something that you saw in those practices that gave you pause to say, I don't even want to put them out there because I didn't like what I saw? Ooh. Because if you were beating up on that team, it would be different. It would be completely different if you felt really good about what you saw all week in practice and it was like, yeah, this would be a waste of our time to put those guys out there. And we looked really, really good, and those were the reports and all the things. But even still, in that situation, with Nick Sirianni, in my opinion, being on one of the hottest seats in the National Football League at head coach, you put them out there.
That's what I thought.
You put them out there because you want to show. You want to show well. And if you played well against this team in joint practices, guys, give me one series. Just give me one series.
Can I ask you a question? Because I've never been in joint practices versus preseason. What is the intensity? If games are here, joint practices are here, or joint practices are where are preseason games?
So I think you can get a lot out of joint practices. I actually enjoyed them. I didn't think I would ever. I did it when I was in Miami. It was my first time experiencing it. I thought they were great because it is ratcheted up a little bit because you're competing against someone that doesn't wear the same helmet as you. And so naturally you want to show well because this is our team, that's their team. However, it's different because you're not hitting. There's some things that you just go in and you're like, I don't have to, there's no butterflies when you go to a joint practice. But when you're about to play a game, preseason and or regular season game, there are little butterflies because this is live. This is real. You can't fake it. One guy might go a different speed or intensity level, but you better believe you better be ready to go because he's going to hit you or you're going to hit him. So I don't buy that in the joint practices we got our bulk of the work.
As much as in the games.
Okay. Yeah. You have a take on joint practices?
What? No, I gave my take about the Eagles offseason. We have to go. Dusty's in my ear, and I'm listening to him. We got to move. We got stuff to do. We got Ian O'Connor on
I know,
the show.
but it's like when we have our pre-show meetings. Sometimes I'm out there trying to
I mean, you give your hottest takes at 10 in the morning before you've had your mocha frap, and so and then you come out.
All right, so what will we see when Jalen Hurts hits the field? Well, Henry McKenna writes on FoxSports.com that a mobile Jalen Hurts is key to the Eagles' success. Bottom line is that the Eagles can't escape how badly they need Hurts' mobility in rushing production. His dip in rushing efficiency in 2023 wasn't just a symptom of their offense, it was a cause. Expect Jalen Hurts to return to his 2022 form.
Do I expect it? No. Am I saying it's impossible? No, I'm not saying that. But right now, if I had to make a bet, I would bet 2022 was an aberration. I thought Jalen Hurts there were a lot of positives coming in, the way he handled the benching at Alabama, the way he improved as a player at Oklahoma. I saw that, I thought of it, and I'm like, okay, he's probably a second or third round pick. You know what I mean? A guy who, in the right system maybe. And then his first couple years in the league, I was like, yeah, it's exactly that. I thought he was getting the most out of his abilities it's like, oh, that guy might be a starter in this league. You know what I mean? Below average starter, but whatever. And then 2022, they almost go undefeated for the first 14 games of the year, and he plays a brilliant Super Bowl, unlike any of his 3 other previous playoff games. The 2 playoff games leading up to the Super Bowl, he had 270 yards passing total.
Yeah.
The playoff game the year before, he was way out of his depth against Tampa. And then the Super Bowl, he has 375 total yards, 4 touchdowns, goes toe-to-toe with Mahomes, is amazing. And then last year, he looked a lot like the guy from before. And so I am not... Because of that Super Bowl and that season, Greg, I'm not acting like it's impossible. But do I expect it? I don't expect him to be able to do that again. I think it's a guy who everything hit right in the right time.
Greg, let me just show you the numbers, how starkly 2022 was from last year. 10 or more yards running, 61 times. Last year, 18 times. And then 20 or more yard runs, 15 times. Last year, only 2. So what are you expecting here?
So I expect him to get back to what he was in 2022.
Wow.
And it's going to look closer like that than it will like it did last year. Wow. And I say that because a lot of things. Jalen Hurts is one of those players that we never mention anything about injuries or what he was going through because he doesn't make excuses for himself. He never brings it up. He never talks about it. He just goes through it, and because he understands no one cares. No one cares. But the reality is he didn't look the same, and he wasn't able to be the same because he couldn't provide what his body was accustomed to providing in terms of being healthy. We didn't see him. The numbers are there's such a disparity in those numbers because he couldn't run the ball. When he would run, he's running straight out of bounds to the sideline. Yep. He wouldn't turn up the field. There was no type of a burst in his running when he eluded the line of scrimmage and got outside the pocket. And I believe it put a lot of pressure on him to be a pocket passer. Something that I can sit here and say, that's just not who he solely is. He's not exclusively a pocket passer. He's a guy that can get out, make things happen, hit a guy, get a guy wide open, and they make plays. So that's why I believe, as well as when you add in Kellen Moore, a new coordinator, that the chatter has been, man, he's allowing Jalen to be Jalen. There comes a moment where if there has been friction, and we talked about this yesterday, between head coach Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, I want to prove to everybody, like, I'm that guy. And if he's going to allow me to do that, let's do it together. So I believe that he's going to go into the season with that chip on his shoulder, that type of an edge and that type of approach. So that's why I think he's going to look closer to 2022 than last year.
Then the Eagles will be excellent. If that's the case, they'll be excellent.
All right. Yeah. Look at you believing in the Eagles.
No, if Greg's right,